Okay, so again, this is about elasticity. Now, when we say elasticity in economics, it refers to the responsiveness of one variable to a change of another variable, right? So it's different from slope, because when we say slope, it talks about the change of one variable with respect to another variable. So mura siya og kung sa calculus pa rin siya derivative. The derivative of q with respect to p. So mura siya ang slope. But when we say elasticity, it's the percentage change. Alright, percentage change in q with respect to the percentage change in price. Now, why elasticity? Now, kung slope naman good, because slope depends on what is the unit given on that situation. Let's say dollars or peso or quantity like 1 kilo, 1 kilogram. May ana, nasa unit of sabay term na unit of change. But when we say elasticity, ang gina-measure niya is ang percentage or the exact percentage change in quantity with respect to change in another variable like price, income, or the price of another product. Now, normally ang elasticity, ginagamit siya as a tool for business decisions, especially in increasing or decreasing the price of the good. Now, there are many types of elasticity. Okay, so we will be discussing them all today. Hopefully, napatay time, plan pa ta. So we have price elasticity of demand or PED. We also have the cross price elasticity of demand or XED. We also have income elasticity of demand YED. And the last one, a price elasticity of supply, which is PES. Okay, so let's talk about price elasticity of demand first, or PED. Now, PED follows the law of demand. If you can still remember the law of demand, as price increases, the quantity demanded decreases. So they have a negative or inverse relationship. Now we want to measure here if how responsive the quantity demanded is if the price will change. How much is the decrease if the price will increase? So we can compute our PED using this formula. So PED is equals to the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in P. Now this is the general formula. How about if percentage change are not given? Percentage changes are not given in the scenario or situation, then we can make use of the individual values of our Q's and our P's. So we can use our equation number 2. So that's Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 divided by 2. Now if you will Google how to calculate elasticity, you might encounter different methods like point method or base method. Now what we are using here, we are following the method that is being presented in the learning guides. We call this the midpoint. The midpoint method. Midpoint meaning we are getting the middle point from the word itself, the middle point or the average in measuring our PED. Murang na siya divided by 2. Because let's say kung 1 point lang itong kwaon, mag-choose nata between Q2 and Q1, then our answer will be different. Lahi atong answer for Q1, lahi atong answer for Q2, meaning different answer, different interpretation. Now to fix that, economists, they use the midpoint method instead para uniform tanan ang answer. And from the equation number 2, we can also formulate our equation number 3. Since the Q2 minus Q1 is just the change in Q, P2 minus Q1 is the change in P, and then multiply it, the P average, which is getting P2 plus P1 divided by 2, over Q average, or Q2 plus Q1 over 2. Dili na ako ni-compute how it is being derived. Okay, it would take time. But either you use 1, 2, or 3. Since PED is following law of demand, we are expecting that the result is always negative. Okay, so the negative sign represents the inverse relationship between the price and quantity. So if our PED is negative, we ignore the minus sign, and then we will just get the absolute value. So let's say with this one, so therefore
Okay, so Hannah is, yeah, if I'm correct, Hannah is explaining that the Muslims are the one who gave up their lives
so negative na siya.
from 10 years.
Okay, so let's say we have this example.
Or it started from Spanish colonization.
So with this process, we followed equation number 3. It's either 2 or 3, nala nito, because all the points are given. So it's pretty easy to compute your elasticity. We can just compute the change in P, the change in Q, and then the different values for Q1 and Q2.
The Muslim are the one.
Now, given the values, we're able to compute our PED or elasticity, which is negative 4. Now, since it's expected that the answer is always negative, now we will get the absolute value for this. So absolute value for that is 4 na. Or 4. So diretso na rin siya ha. So what is the interpretation? So if our PED is equal to infinity, our demand is perfectly elastic. Perfectly elastic, it means that it is very sensitive or very responsive to the change in price. Now if you graph this,
That's the time when
we will use, I will graph the perfectly elastic.
and they decided to leave Luzon and Visayas and decided to stay in Mindanao. Because for them, hirap na pasok in Mindanao because it's quite far from Luzon and Visayas. And it's like they decided to stay in
Oops.
and started at that.
Next, di ka ba lumay mag-line?
So,
Alright, so let's say this is our this is our graph. Kailangan ko mag-huwi akong line.
there are some negative impressions.
Our perfectly elastic
Please do not generalize.
demand looks like this. So this is our Q,
Not all of
this
them
is our P. It means that even a slight change in price, your quantity demanded will change drastically. Now this one here is theoretical lang a concept. because it only applies in a perfectly competitive market. Perfectly competitive market meaning that the products that are available in the market are homogeneous. Homogeneous meaning they have the same they have the same content, same manufacturing process, same production process, same packaging, same everything. They have the same ingredients in all aspect.
some of them are
Right, so muna siya ang perfectly
some of
elastic.
them are
Now, when we
being
say our PED is perfectly inelastic,
some of them are
if
engaging
you graph it, it
or
looks
joining
like
groups
this.
or
It
creating
is
groups where they're
vertical.
modifying
It
themselves.
means that no
They want to
matter
bring
how
down,
much the
they want to
price change
change,
is,
okay? Because ever
your
since
quantity demanded
the spiders
is
did
constant.
increase until now,
It will stay the same.
they cannot or they were
So
not
perfect example
able
ani is, let's say ang
to keep
insulin.
it equal. They want to
Mm.
change.
So insulin. So masking mataas pa ang price sa insulin, the mga diabetic will be
Until now,
consuming the
they're not yet
same
successful
amount of shots every day. Dili kayo kumubarato ng insulin, managhan na po nilang gina-take na
usually
shots
doesn't know that
since na may prescription ani nga daily nga gihatag ang
this thing
doctor.
overnight can maybe some of you are confused or you don't
Alright,
understand
going
how
back.
muscles
Now, if our PED is greater than 1 but less than
it's
infinity,
simply
just like our example earlier, let's say the answer is 4, our interpretation for that is our elasticity of demand is elastic.
what they wanted.
Okay, it is responsive to the price change. So it means that if the price of that specific good will increase,
They are the
okay, the
one
demand will decrease
who
relatively.
really knows
By how much? Depende sa values.
what
Okay, depende sa
change
percentage.
they
Diri,
want.
pila man ang change.
Okay? So,
Saan to? 20%
um,
change. Nag-increase ang price of
what else do
5%.
you have to know about it? Why?
Nag-change ang quantity demanded
Anti-serious.
by 20%.
You
Alright, so
want
that's how you
to
interpret.
ask.
And then if your PD is equals to 1, then we have a unitary elastic. So same proportion ang percentage change. Let's say a 10% increase in price will lead to a 10% decrease in quantity.
The moral elements required.
But if your PD is greater than 0 but less than 1, then it is inelastic. It is not that responsive,
They are professionals now.
okay, to the price change. But then again, let's say how much, depende na siya sa percentage.
That they use study.
And then if your PD is equals to 0, then we have a perfectly inelastic demand. Itong vertical na graph earlier. It means that it is not responsive to the price change. So, maski kung sa pang-increase or decrease sa price, the demand for that specific good will be the same.
Since
Alright, so this is how you interpret it in a graph. When in theory, when we say elastic, it is flatter compared to an inelastic demand.
until this very moment, our Muslim brothers and sisters
Okay, factors affecting PED. Just read the learning guide for the factors.
change.
Though I put in here
And
a couple. But katong nasa learning guide are more specific. Okay, so did not siya explain further because we don't have that much time. Now, the relationship between total revenue and elasticity. Total revenue is the price times quantity. Kung sa Bisaya pa nimo ni muhang halin. Kung kung tag pila ang product o pila ka book imong nahalin. That's total revenue. Total revenue is different from profit ha. Profit is ang kita. Oh no, ang total revenue is ang kita, ang profit kay ang ginansya. So when we say profit, normally ang profit is pi sign man na siya. So profit is equals to total revenue minus total cost. So total revenue is just a part of profit. So lahi na siya, don't be confused. Now elasticity is normally used in decision making, especially in increasing or decreasing your price. So let's say we have here a table of values with price, quantity, total revenue, and our elasticity. Now if you have noticed, as our price decreases from 1 to 0.6, our total revenue is increasing from 1 to 3. Now while our total revenue is increasing, our elasticity of demand is at elastic. Meaning, as we decrease the price, we are getting more revenue. So if you can identify your good as an elastic good, then it is better that you decrease your price. So however, if you consider your product, let's say, let's by example sa inelastic, mga addictive product, let's say kana mga shabu, rugby, mga na yung ginabaligya, o mga bulkasil, kana maka-addict man ano. Because addictive product are considered as an inelastic product. It means that as the price increases, the quantity demanded is not responsive. So, let's say na maligya kag shabu. Example na niya ni tinuod. Patay mo ang shabu kay tag 0.1. So, as you increase your price from 0.1 to 0.4, your revenue is increasing. So maskin pa nga motaas ang presyo ana imong gibaligya, you can still get more revenue. Okay, so kidding aside, let's say if you are selling mga cigarettes, alcoholic beverages, these are inelastic product man. So that's why government are very confident in imposing kaning sin tax. So these are tax imposed to cigarettes and alcoholic beverages. So masking tag G's pa ang stick sa sigarilyo, people will still buy these types of goods. Though mahal na siya, but businesses can still earn revenue. So masking mataas ng price, businesses can still get something out of it. So dili sila mag-worry. Especially if your product is inelastic. Okay, so when the demand is elastic, decreasing your price will increase your revenue. Again, that's why it's better that you know your product if it's elastic or inelastic, so you can adjust your prices so you can get more revenue out of it. So when the demand is inelastic, if you decrease your price, your total revenue will also decrease. So dapat i-increase din ang price same ang product, so you can increase your revenue. So that's how elasticity can be applied in decision making, especially in businesses. All right, clear? Okay. Yeah, nawala lagi ng example dire. Okay, now for example, let's say we have a problem here. If the price falls from 6 to 4, the quantity demanded rises from 8,000 to 12,000. Now calculate the price elasticity of demand using midpoint method. So ako lang i-specify ang midpoint method ha again because there are several methods that can be used to compute elasticity. Show you complete solutions and what happens to the total revenue due to the price change. Show and explain. Wala pa natin na-solve. So let's try to solve this. Mm. So ako lang ibutang dito problem. Okay. So first, we can use either the general equation, equation 2 or equation 1. Again, still remember kaning tulo ka equation in calculating our PED. So depende lagi na siya on say given ha. So you can use either of the three. Now, for our sample problem, we'll use equation 2. Since given na ang values sa ato ang P. So our P1, so it stayed there, price falls from 6 to 2. So our P1 here is 6. And then our P2 is equals to 4. And then quantity demanded rises from 8,000 to 12,000. So Q1 is 8,000 and then our Q2 is 12,000. So using equation 2 in computing our PED, so kung siya Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 divide 2 all over P2 minus P1 over P2 plus P1 divide 2. So Q2 na to is ito lang din siya 12K minus 8K over Q2 plus Q1 12 20,000 divide 2 so 10K. If you are following, mag-solve po mo diha. So P2 minus P1 4 minus 6 4 minus 6 over 10 divide 2 5. So 12 minus 8 4K 4K over 10K divided by 4 minus 6 negative 2 over 5. And then pag exam na, I will allow you to use calculator mampod. So you don't have to worry about mga calculations. So 4,000 divided by 10,000. So that's 0.4. 2 divide 5. 0.4 po. So 0.4 over negative 0.4. Now our answer is negative 1. But then again, since we are calculating PED, it's expected that the answer is negative. Just have to get the absolute value. So our PED now is equals to 1. So how to interpret? So we can say that the price elasticity of demand is unit elastic. Isa naman eh. So therefore PED is unit elastic. So it means that the percentage change in price is proportion to the percentage change in quantity demanded. Okay, so that's for number one, calculate the price elasticity of demand by using midpoint method. Now, what happens to the total revenue due to the price change? So this is very easy. So remember the formula of our total revenue. Total revenue is equals to price times quantity. So what happens man after the price change? So kung wala pa yung price change, let's say TR1, our price is 6 and then our Q is 8,000. So the total revenue is 6 times 8, pila gani? 42. Tama ba? And then TR2, after the price change, 4 times 12, 48. Sorry. So ko kay si Karel o si Jan. Sorry ra God, sorry lang. Okay, akong i-reason, kadili ra gyud. Ra gyud. Okay, got it lagi. So it's 48K. So tama, 4 times 12, 48K. Alright, so the answer for number 2, what happens to the total revenue due to the price change? Show and explain. So this is how you show it. So the total revenue remains the same, or total revenue is constant after the price change. So it supports our answer sa tuang PED. If total revenue is the same after the price change, it is unit elastic. If you can see our asa na to? Total revenue example, even though the price changed from 0.5 to 0.4, no, 0.6 to 0.5, total revenue is the same, 3, and then we are at our unit elastic. So ni-support siya sa tuang concept and theory. Alright? Question. Clear? Okay, so naami itong question number 2 ganiha, what if we are faced with a different, saan na to? Let's say a different, wala lagi. May question here, kung same ang TR sir, ma-interpret ba na non-profitable siya or dili? We can say that it's not advisable to increase or decrease the price. Let's say increase man to no? Oh no, decrease to siya. So it's not advisable to decrease the price because we are getting the same. It's either not advisable or it is okay. Depende na siya sa inyong justification, sa inyong answer. So pwede mo tama kayo na no need na to decrease the price because you will be getting the same revenue, or you can just increase the price because it will still give you the same revenue. So mo tayo yung answer. Depends on how you again justify it. So what if we are faced with this type of question? So the equation for a demand curve is Q equals 15,000 minus 50p. Find the price elasticity of demand as price rises from 10 to 100. Alright, so ang given lang ani is ang prices. So price rises from 10 to 100. So we can say our P1 there is 10 and then our P2 is 100. Dapat ako una kay marami nipis kayo. Okay, and then we have our demand function equals 15 minus, oops, 4 is a 0, 50p. Now, how can we find our PD? Well, kung mogamit ta og base method, we can just use this one. If you can remember, 50p or kaning coefficient sa p, this is the slope, right? And then the formula for our slope is change in q over change in p. Familiar? Change in q over change in p. Now going back sa itong formula ganiha, asa man ang change in q over change in p? Kani siya. So we can use that. So ang kulang na lang nato is ang average for p and average sa q. Now kung gamitin na itong base method, we will just ignore ang average. We can use either of the price. But since we are using midpoint method, kaya itong i-follow sa learning guide, then we just need to get the average. There's actually a lot of ways good on how you can attack in solving this problem. Kung kanay yung gamiton ninyo yung change in P over change in Q, mas dugay siya for me. But still, we can use katong equation number 2. So, we just need to substitute lang yun. Let's say sa P1, so Q is equals to 15,000 minus P. Substitute lang natin yung 10, this one here. Mas dali siya. So, 50 times 10, 500 minus 15,000. So, 14,500. That's our Q1. Our Q2 is 15,000 minus 50 times 100 equals 50 times 100, 5,000 minus 10,000. So, na tayo P1, P2, Q1, Q2. So, going back sa itong general formula, PD is equals to Q2 minus Q1 over Q2 plus Q1 divide 2 over P2 minus P1 over P2 plus P1 divide 2. So Q2 minus Q1, 10,000 minus 4,500, that's negative 4,500 over Q2 plus Q1, 24,500 divided by 2, so we have 12,200, 50 over P2 minus P1, 100 minus 10, that's 90, P2 plus P1, 100 plus 10, 110 divided 2, 55. Okay, so kaning 4, 5 divided by 12 to 5, 4, 5 divided by 12, ilang? 12 to 5, 50. That's 0.037, negative 0. If you're also following, check na lang ha kung tama kung answer. 90 divided by 55, 90 divided by 55, it's 1.60, 1.64. Oops, sorry. There. May ganin yung fancy Karel. Tara, sorry kayo. Okay. So, katong ganiha, Going back, so muna siya kung i-solve kung nakita ninyo. I-substitute ako ang 10, P1. Substitute ako ang P1 here sa P to get 4,500. I-substitute ako ang P2 sa 100. So I get 10,000. So na ako yung value for P1, P2, Q1, Q2. And then, ako na lang substitute and solve, and then I got this negative 0.37 divided by 1.64. That's 0.23 something. Negative 0.23. Absolute value, our PED is equals to 0.23. So therefore, our PED is inelastic. So how do we interpret this? Okay, so most probably, the quantity demanded for this product is not responsive to the change in price. So ano siya pag-solve? Oops. Wala. Okay, question. Klaro no? Clear? Okay, dali lang man. Isa ha. Okay, so that's all for price elasticity of demand. And then for other types of price elasticity, kaya ko na siyang pasasan. Because once you grasp the concept of price elasticity of demand, then it is easier for you to understand the other types of elasticity. Ako sa change ako pa na PPT. Okay, ako na dalian. Okay, other types of elasticity, we have cross price and the income elasticity. So when we say cross price, this is the responsiveness of the demand for one good, let's say good X, to the change in the price of another good. So that's good Y. So the difference lang, because they're following the general formula, the difference is you have to use the price of the other good. Let's say we have two good X and good Y, and you are looking for the PED for good X, XED for good X, then you have to use the price of good Y. So 12. Alright, so same process. Now for getting your XED, you can now identify if the two products, if they are a substitute or a complement. So may bala ninyo yung relationship sa two products. So let's say our XAD is greater than 0, or if it's positive, then we can say the two goods are directly related. They are substitute. So substitute meaning that if the price of good X will increase, the quantity demanded for good Y will also increase. So that's substitute. If your XCD is negative, then the two goods are complements. Complements meaning they go together, like toothbrush, toothpaste, cars and gasoline, may nga na. So they are inversely related kung negative ang imong XED. And then if the XED is equals to 0, the two goods are not related. So they have no relationship. Okay, walang sila, walang kayo. Let's say burger and milk tea. Let's say gikuha mong elasticity nilang duha. If the answer is 0, then they are not related. Dili sila substitute, dili sila complement. Alright, so I have an example here. I will also give you this PowerPoint for my reference. Okay, so let's say the answer is 1.5. It is positive, greater than 0. So indicating the two goods are substitute. And if it's negative, now unlike ganyan sa PED, since we are using own price of the product, so it is expected that all the answers are negative. But since in XED or cross price, we are using a different price, a different product's price. So expected that we have a positive answer. Okay, so that's the difference. Now next is income elasticity. So the same concept, the only difference is we are basing it to the change in consumer income. As you see, ang nalahi lang ang kaning letter Y. So Y represents income. So same set of formula, you're just using the values for income. Now for YED, if your answer is greater than 1, then you have a normal good. Okay, and then from there, you can identify if it's elastic or not. So let's say example, we have two YED result. The YED1 is 2.5 and then YED2 is 50. Now both result, they are considered as normal goods. But which of the two is income elastic? Now the higher the value of YED is considered more elastic compared to the other. Alright, so the higher the value, we can say that the item is luxury. Pwede po tayo maingon nga 2.5 is also a luxury depending on the situation. So let's say example kaning movie ticket, right? For someone who have a low income, movie ticket might be a luxury for them. So lisod sila ha makatanaw og sine. Now for those who have higher income, movie ticket is just nothing. So okay na sila mo gasto or matanaw og sine masking pila sa isang kasemana because they can afford it. So depende on the situation. Okay? So the higher the value, the more elastic the normal good is. Now if your YED is greater than 0 but less than 1, it is still considered as a normal good. So by the way, normal good, these are the goods that increases as the income increases. So if your YED, let's say 0.56, less than 1 but greater than 0, it is income inelastic. However, if your YED is closer to 0 or it is approaching to 0, mas closer siya sa 0, the product or the good is considered as a necessity. Needed jud siya. Meaning, masking mataas pa imong income, you are consuming the same quantity of good. However, if your YED is less than 0, it is an inferior good. Let's say 1.6. Meaning that as your income increases, the quantity demanded for this good will decrease. Okay, inferior man siya. So I also have an example here. Don't worry, again, I will post this on the chat room and on K-Hub. Now, let's proceed to elasticity of supply. So still same concept as the price elasticity of demand. The only difference is we'll focus on the supply side. So instead of using QD, we'll use QS. Okay, and the price of the product. There's not much difference, same process, same method. Now the characteristics for this one. If your PES is equals to 0, it is perfectly inelastic, meaning that your quantity supplied is not responsive to the change in price. Same with your PED, if you graph this is vertical. And then if your PES is greater than 0 but less than 1, your quantity supplied is inelastic, meaning it's not that responsive to the change in price. But if your PES is equals to 1, same ang proportion sa increase of price to the increase of quantity supplied. And then if your elasticity of supply is greater than 1 but less than infinity, again infinity, this is just theoretical ha, because there's no such thing as infinity. Kung sa Bisaya pa ni walay forever. Right, so your elasticity of supply is greater than 1 but less than infinity. It is elastic, meaning that the firm can immediately increase their production if there's an increase in price. And if your PS is equals to infinity, which is again theoretical, suppliers will be able to increase their supply drastically if there's even a slight change in price. If you graph this one, it shows a horizontal line in your supply curve. So let's say, ito na siyang i-graph. Naman. So ang normal supply curve is upward sloping. So this is our supply P, Q. So if your PS is something like that, horizontal, this is perfect, perfectly elastic. But if your graph is vertical, something like that, imagine na lang a vertical na, then we have perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic meaning, no matter what the price is, same lang ang masupply sa firms. So one of the reason for this one is that, let's say na maximize na sa firm ang ihang production, wala na siya available na technology, wala na available na machine. So kung mutaas ang price sa specific good, dili na siya makaproduce of more. Because if you remember the law of supply, as the price increases, the quantity supply will also increase. But in a perfectly inelastic situation, dili basta-basta maka-increase of quantity supply ang mga firm. Dili sila naka-responsive if there's an increase in price due to some reasons. Like ito, na-maximize na ang production, or there's not enough time to produce. Alright, so that's it for the topic elasticity. Do you have